Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and today's video is the introduction to Power Automate for Desktop. And this is the beginning of multiple videos that I'm going to release in this topic because Power Automate for Desktop and its robotic process automation or RPA has so much to offer. And therefore, I really want to invest time in explaining this and focusing on each and every topic. So let's start with this video. But first, here's my intro video. So let's spend the next few minutes learning about what Power Automate Desktop Flow is all about. Now, Power Automate Desktop Flow is an extension of the Cloud Flow. And over there, it does go ahead and broaden the existing robotic process automation or the RPA. And it is applicable for many reasons over here. In fact, one of my favorite ones is the one on the bottom. It says it allows you to automate legacy applications such as terminal emulators and desktop applications. Basically, if you've got those legacy type of applications that doesn't have any APIs and no way for Power Automate to actually talk to them using any API or REST API services, well then robotic process automation is the perfect way to do that because you fire up the application and then you can actually go ahead and use the RPA to do the actual physical clicking processes to do the task that you wanted over there. Now, let's take a look at the architecture of this. Now, I'm not going to deep dive on each and every piece of it, but it's important to at least see what the overall architecture is. So the Power Automate desktop software uses specifically something called as the UI Flow service. And this is the service that runs on the Windows OS. So if you can see this image over here, it was used both for the attended and the attended on the desktop directly to talk to your cloud service over there. And then Azure Relay is a service that facilitates the communication between both what's on your desktop and the outgoing request to the services. But in addition to this, there is also the architecture design of how the on-premise gateway works, because that is a big improvement that has happened. Because back in the day, previously, about a few years ago, you had to have both. You had to have your UI Flow service in your desktop software, and then you also had to install the on-premises gateway separately. Now they are both together. So the UI Flow service, which is actually the Windows service running on your operating system, when you go ahead and install that with the Power Automate for Desktop, it now comes with the on-premises gateway. So as you can see, this image is a little advanced than the one I just showed you, because when you go and do the attended or attended flows, now that UI Flow service directly has the on-premises gateway in it. It's a big improvement that has happened. Now you heard me talk about Power Automate Desktop as attended and unattended. Well, what's the difference between the two? Let's focus a few minutes on that. Now, the overall automation, which we kept talking about, can be done two ways. It can be done in an attended way and in an unattended way. So let's focus a little bit on the differences on the two. When it comes to unattended, well, the bot system or the robotic process automation is going to completely handle the whole thing without you needing to do any assistance, which means it will do it completely unattended. Attended means you do something, then the bot will go ahead and take care of a few other steps. Then you again go ahead and do something else, and then the bot goes ahead and does the following steps. That is the whole concept of attended. You and the bot are actually coexisting together to get the task done. So what's the differences between the two? Let's take a look at that. For the attended and the unattended, like I just mentioned, the attended actually requires a human interaction or some decisions. Key piece over there is that you are actually helping the bot, the attended bot, make some decisions. But when it comes to the unattended, no human interaction or decision is required. Next, it is manually triggered. So when I go ahead and do a attended one, I actually have to go ahead and start the bot or start the robotic process automation flow to go ahead and get the process going. But when it comes to the unattended, it's completely automated. And finally, when it comes to the attended robotic process automation, sign-in isn't required because you already are there in the system triggering the bot to do that. However, with the unattended, your human interaction is not going to be there. So therefore, a Windows sign-in is defined, and it has to be predefined somehow in your flow or some place that you're going to allow the bot to actually do something. So therefore, the predefined sign-in with your credentials is one of the pre-requirements that is needed. Next, I want to spend a few minutes talking about the licenses, not about the actual dollar amount, but about what are the services that come along with it. So over here, you can see the per cloud flow or the desktop flow. For the attended one, its licensing plan or services plan is different from the unattended one. So that's the importance over there. Now, there's different ways to actually go ahead and do this. There's different subscription plans available. You can actually do it at a per user plan, or you can do it as a per attended RPA, or you can do it as a per flow plan as well. There's different licensing functionalities available. But if you're going to do the unattended RPA, you can actually do it as a per bot per month licensing subscription. And that's basically the amount for that. But you can also go and do pay-as-you-go plans. In fact, that is something that I do a lot for all my learning and testing, is I actually go and set up an Azure subscription service and I actually tie that subscription specifically to an environment level. Therefore, all the RPA bots that I'm making in that environment are already taken care of from the licensing perspective, thanks to that pay-as-you-go plan. So this is something that you should consider as well. And here's what it looks like. This is actually a screenshot that I took from my Power Automate desktop. And now that I'm in this one specific environment called Power Automate RPA PAD, over here a sign comes up is that this is covered by our organization's pay-as-you-go. And I really, really like this pay-as-you-go specifically for my learning and for my testing. So here I am in my Windows 11 machine. And one of the beautiful things about Windows 11 is that the Power Automate for desktop is already built into this operating system. And so it's easy for me to basically just come over here to my search. And in the search, right on the top, I can search for Power Automate. And right over there in the best match, you can see it's the Power Automate and it's an app. So when I click on it, it will actually go ahead and first open up. And this is the first time that you're doing it. You will open up over here. It will ask you to sign in. And it immediately checks to see if there are any updates for you. And it will go pull those updates after it has gotten your approval. So here you go. I have now signed into my Power Automate for desktop automatically. And by default, it went into my default environment. And there's a few things to look around over here. First of all is this beautiful functionality, which is now the home option. This wasn't there before. Before we directly went into my flows, but now there is the home option. And in the home option, right on the home screen, it's actually giving me some great information. First, it tells me, welcome to Power Automate Daniel Christian, and it tells me here's a good one video to watch. So I recommend you watch that one video. When you click on it, this video section opens up over here. It's just a pop-up screen, and you can actually watch this 1-minute video. Love it. I highly recommend that you watch that. But then after that, it's giving you more and more functionality. Now, this looks a lot like when you actually signed into Power Automate on the browser. It has its own home screen, and over there, it gives you all the templates, any new updates, any new events. All of that comes in the Power Automate home screen in the browser. The desktop one gives you the same functionality over there. So I really, really like this new home screen that has come. Now, after that, there's a few other things to look at too. First of all, it's telling me the Go Premium, which means I get a hint that this environment or my per user license doesn't have the RPA additional licensing. But like I mentioned before, if I go into my environments and I actually have one dedicated for that called Power Automate RPA PAD, when I come over here, it's going ahead and loading that environment. And right up on the top, there is this banner saying that, hey, this environment is covered by our organization's pay-as-you-go Azure subscription. Remember that slide deck that I showed you? This is how I got that. So this is a good thing for me to know that, hey, I can now start building a licensed version of the RPA bots. So now that we've seen that, let's take a look at the other things too. First, in the settings. The settings has some important things that you need to be aware of. First of all is the application itself. Do you want the application to automatically start when the desktop has been fired up, or the operating system has been fired up? And over here, you can actually use some shortcuts to stop the running flow with these hotkeys that are available. And it's completely at your discretion. You can even have the option to go ahead and change a few of them. See, gives you all the flexibility on that. Next is check for updates. Remember, now this is not a browser system. This is an application running on your desktop. So you want to make sure that you do check these updates from time to time, and also have this box checked over there. It says, show me updates. So when you go and fire up this Power Automate for desktop, the application goes and starts running. It will check to see if there are any updates. And then after that, you can start getting all these new features and functionalities. Then there is the data collection. So in the data collection, you've got the flexibility to say, hey, I do want to allow collection of optional diagnostic data, which will help Microsoft improve its overall performance. Or if you want to go ahead and make sure that, hey, this could be a hindrance to my privacy, just go ahead and uncheck that box and click on save, and you're all good over there as well. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You might say, hey, Daniel, I don't have Windows 11, or my company hasn't gone into Windows 11 yet. I still have Windows 10. What do I do? Well, you're completely fine over there as well. You can actually go ahead and download your app. I'll show you that. So here I am. I've opened up my Microsoft Edge, and I'm just going to do a quick search for Power Automate Desktop Download. I'll go and click on it. And then one of the things that you want to look for is skip the top one, but go ahead and look for the Install Power Automate. When you click on it, this is actually one of the great sites, and I'll go and post that in the description below, the link for this. But it gives you a good overview of what are the important things that you need to be aware of, some of the features that are either coming or the features that are going to be retired. And now for us, for this one, is you come over here and you download the Power Automate desktop. This is where you actually go ahead and download the file, the exe file, and you go and do the installation. That's one thing. Other thing that I want you to focus on is also the releases that come out. So here I'm going to search for released versions of Power Automate Desktop. When I click on that, it'll actually get you this one site. So I'll take this link and I'll put it in the bottom as well. But right over here, released versions of Power Automate for Desktop, click on that. And it gives you this kind of nice tabular view over here. In fact, it's also telling you that the January of 2023, the ones which is still to come, it is giving you what the build number is. But whatever is the version and all the releases, it's a TBD, to be determined. But we've at least got the December of 2022. So when I click on that, it's actually giving me a good update, nice in small bits, things that I need to know. First of all, what are the new features? Any enhancements and improvements? And then what is repaired? So I highly recommend that you kind of bookmark this place over there so that anytime you go ahead and do that monthly update, come over here every once in a while, take a look at what are the new features so you can actually plan ahead that, hey, this is actually a version that I do need to go ahead and update to because it has either the fixes or the new features that I want, or you know what, I can skip this one because it really doesn't have everything that I need. Okay, so let's jump back into our Power Automate for Desktop. I'll go ahead and expand that. And now let's go to My Flows. And in the My Flows, this is a full console that you can actually go and start leveraging it. Over here is where you can go and see any of your new flows or any existing flows that you might already have. Next is the Shared With Me. Now this looks a lot like what we see on the browser for Power Automate. Over there, we've gone ahead and built any of our flows. Initially, it's just a My Flow. That's the one that only you've built. That's the one that only you see because you're the only one you have access to it. But when you go and share it, it'll automatically take it away from My Flows and put it into the Shared Flows. The other thing that I like a whole lot is examples. Again, these is exactly like what we had for Power Automate on the browser. There is thousands of templates up on the browser. And I'll tell you what, as one of the early adopters, I am seeing these examples growing by leaps and bounds. In fact, some of my personal favorites are already over here. Excel automation, and I'll do some of these in the videos in the future. But this is one of those neat things is because right over here, for example, Excel automation, it's one tab over here, but there's actually 5 examples in it. For web automation, there's again examples over there. PDF automation, one of the things that you might start using a whole lot, again, 9 examples. So over here, each of these are basically just one tab, but there's so much more examples in it. And as you know, you can actually go with that and do some reverse engineering to actually learn and really improve your whole process of using the Power Automate for Desktop. So this is the example section. Now let's dive into the actual console of building your flows. And for that, I can do it multiple ways. I can actually go right over here in examples. I can click on the plus flow or in the home page or in the My Flows or even Shared With Me. All of those tabs have the functionality to go and start your flow. So I'm going to go in My Flows and I'll go and click on plus new flow. Here is another section that opens up. So I'm actually going to say live demo video. All right. And I'm going to click on create. And this, again, we are very familiar with because this is all the processes that we've seen before, even on the browser side. We go and click on any of the templates or we go and click on directly a new flow and it starts building the flow. The only difference over here is that we are now on the desktop app. So here you go. I've gone ahead and now gone into what's called as the console. The previous screen was not actually the console. I accidentally said that. That's not it. This is the console because if you can see, now we are in the real meat and potatoes of actually building the Power Automate for Desktop flow over here. So let's spend a few minutes actually understanding what this is all about. So on the top left, we've actually got all of these menus. And over here, when I click on it, you can see that each of them actually have properties or features based on the title that you see. So once you start building flows, here is where you can go and do some debugging. Tools has the functionality now to go ahead and put in the recorder functionality right over there. Then you can go and do views. What do you want to view? You want to view variables, user interface, elements, so on and so forth. And we will actually deep dive into all of those in the future. And help is basically the same thing. There's got documentations, link to the community, blogs, all of those nice things that you would need in the future are all here under help. All right, so now let's focus on the left side, which is called as actions. So as you can see, the screen is kind of divided into 3 different sections. There is the actions, Here is where you'll actually see all the flow that you'll create. And on the right side is again the variable. So I like this breakdown that is there because it makes it a lot more easy to actually use the whole thing. Now, as the name says, it's as actions. So the actions are what? There's a whole bunch of actions that you can do over there. There's a section that is actually all grouped in. So you've got variables. In fact, variables is something that we will do a whole lot. Well, what are the variables type? And can I even go and set a variable? Yep, you can. You can set a variable. You can increase it, decrease it. I'll be spending a whole video actually just talking about variables, but here is just a quick synopsis of what that variable is about. In fact, under variables, there is the whole concept of data table, and you can actually go and create a lot of tables as well. You kind of understand how this is resembling a lot like what we do on the Power App side or on the Power Automate side. So adoption of this is so much more easier. The other thing that I want you to focus on is when you actually scroll to the bottom, you will constantly see more and more previews coming out. So for example, this SharePoint preview that has come out, this is one of those new features, which means that right now it says preview. So therefore, this is a new feature, which is functionality, and it's only in the preview phase. So this is one of those whole things where you've got a bunch of actions. These actions are all directly grouped in, and you can actually go and do a full search of that as well. So if I were to now go and just type in anything about variable, we know that I just showed you the concept of variables, and it kind of gives you all of that. Under variables, there was the option set variable, decrease variable, increase from. I told you what it is. So it goes ahead and automatically goes ahead and filters it over there. In fact, under system, which is something we didn't look at, there's a whole bunch of actions over there tied to variables. So this search functionality really helps me because if I'm actually going ahead and even, learning about something on the Microsoft Learning documents, whose link, by the way, I've placed below, you will see that I don't need to go and scroll down and search for them. No, just go ahead and use the search bar over there. Search giving a reasonable thing that you're looking for, which I just put in as variables, and it gives you all the options. Really like the search functionality. On the right, it gives you three important things. So by default, it actually shows us a variable. So right over here, because that's the one that we've selected. Then there is the UI elements. In fact, we will spend a lot of time on the UI elements when we go through the desktop recorder. Pretty neat functionality over there. And then below it is the images section. And over here, you can actually capture the images right when you're actually using the UI element, which is the recorder. That is what you can do in the capturing. And I like the capturing because over here, you can capture in actually 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or even put in a custom delay. And this to me resembles a lot like the snipping tool. So if I go and actually open the snipping tool, which is built into Windows, if I open that up, over here, it has again the delay functionality. See, it has the 3 seconds, 5 seconds. It doesn't have the custom, but it has an additional 10 seconds over there. So again, I like the resemblance. Some of the ideas that I'm seeing over here in the Power Automate for desktop is some of the things that we've already done before. So adoption over here is a lot more easier. Next, let's focus on this middle section over here, which is where we actually go and start building the flows with all these actions. So let's just start building a little flow over here, a flow that is going to be an attended RPA. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and actually search for a folder. And I'm letting the user pick, hey, which is the folder that you want. So the command that actually I'm looking for is some way to actually select a folder. So that's what I'm going to do is select folder. I'm going to search for that over here under actions and actually find something. It's the real command or the message or the action. It's actually called as display select folder dialog. However, under actions, when I just searched for select folder, I really got what I needed. Now from here, you actually do a drag and you drop it in over here. And now there is this dialog box for you to go and do it exactly how you want. So the dialog description that I want over here is something I tell the user, hey, what is it that you want them to do? Because a dialog box type of thing comes up on that. So I'm going to say, select the folder of your choice. All right, that's what I'm putting over here. And next, after that, you can actually give it an initial folder. This is pretty helpful if you've got drives on your machine. And that's exactly what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over there and I'm going to actually go directly down to my PC. And in my PC, I actually have a D drive. So I'm going to say that when this thing opens up, the dialog box opens up, I want the users directly to go to that D drive, at least start the searching over there. And then everything else looks good. In fact, one of the things that happens is that these variables are automatically created. I'll focus more on my dedicated video for variables, but I just want to point this out is that now that we actually had a place for users to select that folder, we need that selected folder URL to be saved in a variable. And that's what's happening over there, the variable produced. So I click on the save and now this happens. Now there's a couple of things we can do. We can actually go and start just building more and more actions, or we can do a quick test over here. Good practice as always is go and click on save. The save, it actually changes the little color over here telling you that, hey, don't do anything else. I'm actually saving. And then over here, since you've only got one action, I can just click on run. And when I click on run, this pops up over here. Hey, this is what you did. Now, notice a couple of things. We made the initial selected folder as D drive, so it automatically went over there. Love this functionality. All right, so I'm just going to click on OK. And at least that thing ran successfully. On the bottom left, it was ready, gave me some of the actions. On the right side, now we've started to see the flows that are coming in, the variables over here. See, these were the two ones that we created. These are now showing in. But the beautiful thing over here is now it's telling you what are the values that you saved over here. So under the button pressed, we only had an OK over there. If for the selected with the folder, we only selected the D drive. So this telling you that, hey, these are the variables and these are the values assigned in the variables. I love this functionality over here because on the Power Automate flow, the one that we built to the browser, I always have to actually put a compose statement, and in the compose statement, I'll put in the value and then I'll be able to see it. But right now over here in the Power Automate for desktop, I can actually see on the fly what were the variables and what are the values in the variables. Love this functionality. But let's now actually add a few more actions. What I want to do is actually I want to launch an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm just going to say launch Excel, and there you go. There is something called as launch Excel. Drag it, drop it down over here, and then there's a few options. So let's actually take a look at all of these selected parameters. One is, do you want to launch a blank document? I could do that, but I actually want the user to select a very specific one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the following document, and then I actually go and give it the document path. So I can go and select the document path that I have. It's in my D drive, so I'll go and get my D drive. I'll go and say it's in my RPA folder. I can go and click on logs, and I click on open. Now, it's important that you know that the way you can actually go and select it is completely at your discretion. It doesn't have to be that root folder or the root drive, none of that. You can actually dig in as much as you want and you can select it, or you can also go and leverage your variables. I'll make this as in an instance which is variable. I like that. Everything else looks good. And I'll go ahead and now click on save. Now it is launched. I actually want a dialog box to come up. So let's actually search for something called as a dialog, or actually search for something called as a display message. And in the display message, there's few options for message boxes over here. So what I'll actually do is I'll just display a message. Again, drag and drop over here. And now there is a title and what you want to display. So let's actually go through that. I'm going to actually say something in effect that this is the Excel spreadsheet. And here I'm going to go and type in, here's the Excel spreadsheet that you need to update data. All right, after that, you've got a lot more functionality. First of all, what is this message box? Is it a warning? Or is it information? Is it a question? What are you trying to achieve with this message item over here? And for me right now, this is just going to be an information. All right, that's all I need. Which means after that, the message box buttons, the buttons that you want to add, this is it. There's OK, OK, cancel. I'm just going to select with OK because this message is going to come up. And then after that, there's a lot of other things. Do you want the default button to be the first button? You've got so much flexibility over here using this RPA process. And I'll keep the message box all on the top, and I'll click on save. And then after this, after the messages happen, I'll go ahead and now close the Excel spreadsheet. So I'll actually go and click on close Excel, and there you go. I'll go and close it. Moment I go and do that, it is asking me what is the one that you want to do. Well, one of the neat things that it did is it automatically picked up the variable of the initial one that we launched. So check this out. On the second action was launch Excel. Over there, it automatically went and set up a variable called Excel instance. Remember over here, we also saw that Excel instance. It went and set that up. So it automatically now go ahead and say, hey, is that the one that you want to go ahead and turn off or close? Yep, that's good. So I'll click on save. I like these 4 actions. It's a good place to get started. So what we'll do is we'll go and click on save. And this time, let's run the entire flow. So I'll click on run. So it's getting us step by step. So right now you see this one is highlighted. This action is highlighted. And what does that action do? It is actually display the selected folder. So watch, when I go down over here and actually selected the folder and I click on OK, this selected folder variable now gets populated. This is the next action. See, it went and actually said launch Excel. We actually didn't see it populate, but right over here on the bottom, you are able to see that Excel spreadsheet get launched. But we'll keep that Excel spreadsheet as is, okay? I'll just go and click outside it so the Excel spreadsheet is there because that action was successfully done. It launched it. Next, now it's displaying the message. Say, hey, here is the Excel spreadsheet that you need to update data. Great. I'll go and now it's waiting for me. It's actually in a waiting status over there. It's telling me on the bottom left also, hey, you are still running. Everything is good. And over there now, I'm going to click on OK. Once the OK is done, now it'll go and close the Excel, which I'll see on the bottom over there. And once we did that, the flow completed. It was successful. See on the bottom left now, it's no longer running. It isn't ready. It is completed. And on the right, we are able to see all the variables that were used in the actions and what we actually selected it over there. This really helps for future troubleshooting as well. Okay, so we ran the Power Automate desktop flow successfully directly from the console. But what if this is a production type of a flow? Well, how do I run that in a production type of a scenario? So let's take a look. What I'll do first is at least this console section, I'm going to go ahead and close that. And when I go and close it, you can actually go back into the Power Automate desktop and it will show you that it's no longer being in the edit mode or being edited. Also, it's telling me the status is not running. Other thing you can actually do is you can actually see the more options over here when you click on that ellipsis. Because if you are in the editing mode, this gets grayed out. And I'll show you that. If I go back and click on that pencil, it goes into currently editing. I'll go back and show it to you. It goes into the currently editing. And while that happens, if I click on these ellipses, you see these things are all grayed out. So that always tells you that, hey, I'm in the editing process over here. So let me come back over here and let me go and close this. So now that it is a not running status and I'm not currently editing it, this is where I can actually click on that play button or the run and I can go and transfer and trigger it. So watch this. If I click on that, it says preparing and then it started running. See that first thing? It went ahead and actually opened up the folder. Also on the bottom right, a notification comes in that, hey, there is actually a flow running. So I'll go and select OK over here. Next thing is that Excel spreadsheet that opened up right over here. You can see in the bottom that Excel's opened up. I'm not going to close it. The notification also came up. So I'm going to click on OK. And after that, it ran successfully. So this is how it looks like directly as if we are running it. But can I run this from the browser? Well, let's go take a look at that as well. All right. So I'm going to close this notification. I'm going to go to the browser. This is my everyday logging into the Power Automate to actually run flows over here. I made sure that I'm in the correct environment, but I do not see it under Cloud Flows. Remember, this is a desktop flow, so we've got to click on the Desktop Flows tab. And when I go to Desktop Flows, wow, okay, see, I see that live demo video over here. This is the one that I just created. So if I click on it, if I go and click on it, you notice that on the top, I do not have a play option. It shows me everything. It shows all the runs that we did. They were successful. All of that is being there, but it does not give me the option to go ahead and hit a play. But Daniel, it is giving us a pencil. So can we edit it over here? Well, let's go try that too. If I click on edit, it's actually going to ask me, hey, this is a Power Automate for desktop. Do you want to go and launch it? So if I click on launch it, it will actually go ahead and launch it from your desktop. And if your Power Automate for desktop is actually closed, it will go ahead and open that as well. So let's actually try that, all right? I'm going to go ahead and now I got this Power Automate desktop here. I'll go ahead and exit. So it's closed. Now, if I come here on the browser and I'll click on launch, it's actually going to go and now open it. So it will open it directly from your desktop. And over there, we'll be able to start launching it. So that's the one thing is that you cannot do that directly from the browser. You can only do that from your desktop. However, there are some perks to that because you don't always have to go in over here into the console and do that. You can directly do it from the main Power Automate desktop, which is directly going back over here. In addition, if you click on this ellipsis, you can actually create a desktop shortcut. So let's try that, all right? I'm going to close out of this. I'll click on the ellipsis. I'll click on create a desktop shortcut. It automatically went and created this desktop shortcut. So now all I can do is X out of this one. I cannot close it. I cannot close the application. If you come over here, you will see that it is still running because I need that to be available in order to have that discussion also with the cloud, the integration which happens over there. But now I can just double click on this over here and it triggers off the flow. It gives me this notification. So I'll say, okay, continue. And out of that, it starts with the preparing, it starts the running, and all these other steps start over here. So the important takeaway from here is that yes, it syncs your flow and makes it available from the browser as well, but you cannot edit it in the browser and you cannot trigger or play it from the browser. You can only do that from your desktop. So as a quick recap, we went and looked at the overall architecture of how this robotic process automation and Power Automate works. Then we looked at the desktop app itself. We looked at the different sections of it. And then after that, we opened up the console. We saw the different sections in the console over there, the actions, the main flow in between, and on the right side, which included the variables as well. So in the next series of videos, we are actually going to zoom in and double click on each and every one of the services and really understand how it works. So hopefully this video was helpful to you. And as always, keep using Power Automate. Hello, hello, hello. So if you like this video, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and smash that like button. Also, if you have a few extra seconds, can you go ahead and put in a comment? Either say something nice or give me ideas for my next video. And until then, see ya.